Yes, good evening to all. Today we have joined in Wednesday's Dhamma discussion and Dhamma learning session. We will be reading from the Bhante's Dhamma talks given at Dhammasukha or at the retreats. Before start of the reading session, we will recite Namo Tassa for 3 times. You can join me along with for reciting Namo Tassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. Yes, now we will be reading from the Bhante Vimalaramsi's transcript of the talks. Last week we have done till Majjhima Nikāya 2 at nearly at page 20. We can start from here. Yes, Nanda madam, you can start reading.
Section 19, taints to be abundant by avoiding. What taints bhikkhus should be abundant by avoiding? Here a bhikkhu, reflecting wisely, avoids a wild elephant, a wild horse, a wild bull, a wild dog, a snake, a stump, a bramble patch, a chasm, a cliff, a cesspit, a sewer. Reflecting wisely, he avoids sitting on unsuitable seats, wandering to unsuitable resorts, and associating with bad friends, since if he were to do so, wise companions in the holy life might suspect him of evil conduct. Bhante Vimalaramsi. So avoiding certain things is a good thing. Student. At least the cold is not in there. Bhante Vimalaramsi laughter. Well, you're right. Cold weather is to endure. But I did find that some interesting things about cold weather, that when I notice my dislike of the cold weather, all the muscles in my body were tight. And when you relax, all of a sudden, you're not near as cold. Students. So it's just weather, Bhante Vimalaramsi. Yeah. Not in this lifetime. There are things to be avoided just because it didn't say that is one of the things. I avoided just like a wild elephant. One of my teachers was a very good absorption concentration yogi, and he sat for 3 days, one time without moving. And he went into the forest in Thailand, and he sat out in the open, and he started hearing animals coming around him. And he opened up his eyes, and there was 6 elephants in a circle around him. They were curious about what he was doing, and he was throwing off a lot of very positive energy, but it shook him up pretty bad. But it's real wise to avoid sitting by sewers and cesspools or things like that, dead bodies. If you do a cemetery meditation, it's very much recommended that you are upwind from them. So the wind is blowing away from you because it really gets ripe. Okay? Section 20. taints to be abundant by removing. What taints bhikkhus should be abundant by removing? Here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely does not tolerate an arisen thought of sensual desire. He abandons it, removes it, does away with it, and annihilates it. He does not tolerate an arisen thought or ill will. He does not tolerate an arisen thought of cruelty. He does not tolerate arisen evil, unwholesome states. He abandons them, removes them, does away with them, and annihilates them. While taints, vexation, and fervor might arise in one who does not remove these thoughts, there are no taints, vexation, or fervor in one who removes them. These are called the taints that should be abundant by removing. Taints to be abundant by developing section 21. What taints bhikkhus should be abundant by developing? Here, a bhikkhu reflecting wisely develops a mindfulness enlightenment factor which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. Bhante Vimalaramsi, that's a better word, relinquishment, that annihilate. Majjhima Nikāya, he develops the investigation of states, enlightenment factor, the energy enlightenment factor, the rapture enlightenment factor, the tranquility enlightenment factor, the concentration enlightenment factor, the equanimity enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. While taints, vexation, and fervor might arise in one who does not develop these enlightenment factors, there are no taints, vexation, or fervor in one who develops them. These are called the taints that should be abundant by developing. Bhante Vimalaramsi. One of the things when the Buddha was really sick was Moggallana and Sariputta, his two chief disciples, would go visit him and they would recite the sutta called the Bojjhanga. Bojjhanga means 7 factors. Anyway, when one listens to that attentively and they
start putting their enlightenment factors in balance,
the illness will go away. So indulge in it or not, up to you. But if you want to consider deeply the enlightenment factor and how they work and put them into balance, that's the fastest way to overcome a cold. That's the fastest way to overcome major illness, cholera, bubonic plague, all of those kind of things. And it sounds like it's superstition, but it's not. And we go back to the thing about the water and the flash freezing of the water with different mental states. I think it would be really interesting to have the 7 enlightenment factors, considering that while you are holding the water and see that the water looked like under a microscope. I think that could be real interesting. Student, how do you flash freeze? Bhante Vimalaramsi, liquid nitrogen. But they were saying that even just writing on the container changes the water. Majjhima Nikāya Conclusion, section 22. Bhikkhus, when for a bhikkhu the taints that should be abundant by seeing have been abundant by seeing, when the taints that should be abundant by restraining have been abundant by restraining, when the taints that should be abundant by using have been abundant by using, when the taints that should be abundant by enduring have been abundant by enduring, when the taints that should be abundant by avoiding have been abundant by avoiding, when the taints that should be abundant by removing have been abundant by removing, that should be abundant by developing have been abundant by developing, then he is called a bhikkhu who dwells restrained with the restraint of all the taints. He has severed craving, flung off the fetters, and with the complete penetration of conceit, he has made an end of suffering. That is what the Blessed One said. The bhikkhus were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. Bhante Vimalaramsi. So the whole thing comes down to watch what your mind is doing while it's doing it.
Watching how you indulge in feelings, sensations.
Sensations. Try to control those sensations and make yourself suffer more than is needed. Just like this is how depression arises, the indulging in a feeling causes more want for control, which makes the feeling bigger and more intense, which makes the want for control bigger and more forceful. And finally, there's a real fight with that happening inside you that leads to big time suffering. Accepting the fact that these feelings are there without resisting, without fighting them, without trying to control them, just allow them to be. Eventually, there gets to be an equanimity, and then that's where healing occurs.
Yes. Really, we will start with the reading which Nanda Madam has started reading. Here, here Bhante Vimalaramsi has mentioned, like even in Sutta, it is mentioned that we should avoid things which is like wild elephant, wild horse, wild bull, wild dog. I think the intention behind here it is like we should avoid the things which is unsuitable for our meditation practices. Like associating with bad friends is unsuitable for our meditation growth or practice or progress. Therefore, we should avoid those things. And similarly, when sitting in the forest, even the very good example of Bhante Vimalaramsi's teacher, one of absorption concentration yogi, who has sat in meditation, and when he opened his eyes, he saw six elephants in a circle. He was curious. They were curious what he was doing. It was very good example of how things can happen. And next thing in Majjhima Nikāya, what it elaborates is like bhikkhu should be abandoned by removing. Like a bhikkhu should reflecting wisely does not tolerate. Like the one who practices gradually or the one who is in the path doesn't tolerate anything that arises a thought of ill will or cruelty or unwholesome states. And what he does is like what our twin practice says is to apply the 6 hours whenever those thoughts of ill will, cruelty, or unwholesome states arises. And next, there was talking about enlightenment factors, that is energy, rupture, tranquility, concentration, equanimity. And first one is investigation. And these are the 7 enlightenment factors. And here one of the Bhante Vimalaramsi was emphasizing that uh, when Buddha was sick, Moggallana in Sariputta was reciting the Bhojangas, that means 7 factors. Uh, Bhante was saying, emphasizing that it helps. And Bhante is clearly stating that it is not a superstition. Really, it's we can try for ourselves. And finally, Bhante Vimalaramsi is telling that whatever things we arises, like let us say when we are practicing meditation, and let us say if we are fighting against the truth or fighting against the reality, then the suffering starts. But instead of fighting towards it, we can just accept whatever arising, and we can just allow it, like we are growing equanimity where that's real progress happens. This is what Bhante Vimalaramsi said. Nanda madam, Chaya madam, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, you're very right. What I'm finding is since I started practicing 6R, the few people who are not really supportive of my meditation, they simply either move away from me, or I don't see them or interact with them very rarely. It's not a conscious decision, but I think when we practice 6R, maybe unconsciously these things happens. And also, it is good to know that intentionally we can avoid bad company if that company is not supportive to our practice. And it is very good to know that, again, consciously we can avoid places and situations. So that is very good to know, and also to consciously be aware what is going on in our mind and avoid negative thoughts and negative feelings, and use the 6R, relax and smile and radiate a metta. That is a very good as well. And I think this is really good to actually actively cultivate the seven bojjhanga factors, or the seven awakening factors, seven enlightenment factors. I thought when we practice 6R, it's naturally, slowly, and gradually we cultivate the seven factors of enlightenment. But in this sutta, it's saying, in addition to that, we can actually consciously and intentionally cultivate and develop the seven awakening factors, which is very, very useful to know. And there is a sutta, actually, Bojjhanga Sutta, in Asia. I think it's widely chanted. So we can also, in the West, we can chant that sutta and see for ourselves the benefits. I think that is available in Pali, and they're available in English as well, and various other languages. So that is very good news here. I'm glad he mentioned that. Venerable Vimalaramsi mentioned it. It should be very useful when we have a minor cold or something like that, while we are taking medicine, proper medical treatment. We can chant the Bojjhanga Sutta and make an effort to cultivate and develop the seven awakening factors. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yes. I would like to add something based on Nanda madam's sayings. Really, these seven enlightenment factors, particularly when we are progressing in a path, definitely there is a point where we need to balance the energy levels. Even too much energy will also make not comfortable in our meditation practice. Therefore, we can just lower the meditation, like energy levels, basically, like what we do in equanimity, like just we see, just we observe the things happening, and we reduce the energy levels of loving kindness in general. It happens naturally. And definitely over the period of time, we are gaining the seven factors of enlightenment gradually. We are fulfilling the strengthening the factors of enlightenment. Yes, we will go to next sutta, that is Sutta MN4. It is taught by Bhante Vimalaramsi in the 2009. Yes, Chaya madam can read. Yes.
Is my voice clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Awesome. So, fear, Majjhima Nikāya, number 4. Fear and dread. Bhayabherava Sutta. Bhayabherava Sutta. Dhamma talk presented by Bhante Vimalaramsi, 26 May 2009. SK May
Sister
26,
Kema.
2000.
Yes,
Yeah,
Sister
Sister
Kema.
Kema. May 26, 2009. Dhammasukha Meditation Center, Bhante Vimalaramsi, Majjhima Nikāya number 4, Bhayabherava Sutta, Fear and Dread, Bhante Vimalaramsi. This is how to overcome fear and dread. Majjhima Nikāya 4:1. Thus have I heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at the Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatha Pindika's park. 2. Then the Brahmin Janus Soni went to the Blessed One, exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and said, Master Gautama, when clansmen have gone forth from the home life into homelessness out of faith in Master Gautama, do they have Master Gautama for their leader, for their helper and guide? Do these people follow the example of Master Gautama? That is so, Brahmin, that is so. When clansmen have gone forth from the home life into homelessness out of faith in me, they have me for their leader, their helper, and guide. And these people follow my example. But Master Gautama, remote jungle thicket resting places in the forest are hard to endure. Seclusion is hard to practice, and it is hard to enjoy solitude. One would think the jungles must rob the monk of his mind if he has no concentration. That is so, Brahmin, that is so. Remote jungle thicket resting places in the forest are hard to endure. Seclusion is hard to practice, and it is hard to enjoy solitude. One would think that the jungles must rob a monk of his mind if he has no concentration. Before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, I too considered thus. Remote jungle thicket resting places in the forest are hard to endure. The jungles must rob a monk of his mind if he has no concentration. I considered thus. Whenever recluses or Brahmins, unpurified in bodily conduct, resort in the remote jungle thicket, resting places in the forest, then, owing to the defect of their unpurified bodily conduct, these good recluses and Brahmins invoke unwholesome fear and dread. I do not resort in remote jungle thicket resting places in the forest unpurified in bodily conduct. I am purified in bodily conduct. I resort to remote jungle thicket resting places in the forest as one of the noble ones with bodily conduct purified. Seeing it in self, this purity of bodily conduct, I found great solace in dwelling in the forest. 5.7. I considered whenever recluses or Brahmins, unpurified in verbal conduct, unpurified in mental conduct, unpurified in livelihood, resort to remote jungle thicket, resting places in the forest, they evoke unwholesome fear and dread. But I am purified of these things. I resort to remote jungle thicket, resting places in the forest as one of the nobles with purified verbal conduct, mental conduct, and livelihood. Seeing in myself this purity, I found great solace in dwelling in the forest. Bhante Vimalaramsi. A lot of people, especially Asians, they get terrified of being alone when it's dark. They want to be around. They'll sleep with the lights full blown like this all night. Because if they turn the lights out, then the ghosts can come and get them. That's what they think. But but I went to but I went to a but I went to a monastery that was in the forest in Thailand. I had a kuti that was a long way from anybody else. The only light I had was a candle, and I think I might have had a flashlight at the same, but I'm not sure. Flashlights seem to come and go depending on the batteries and that sort of thing. And what they told us to do if you don't have any light when you're walking in the forest, just stop where you are and stay there until it gets light. Now, if you are out walking and if you don't have any flashlight or your flashlight battery gets so weak that you can't use it anymore, following that kind of instruction can make all kind of little noises into big scary noises. And they have quite a few bats in Asia in the forest. And the bats will come around and brush your face. It's really frightening. It can be, but basically, what would happen? That only happened to me twice, that I got caught without any light. I finally I find a fairly nice place to sit down and just sit there for the rest of the night and do the meditation lovely. I didn't really have much problem with that. I prefer to be alone. I like being by myself. I'm not afraid of being by myself in the dark. So it wasn't any big deal. I wasn't raised to think that ghosts are going to come and eat me alive. In Asia, you get raised that way. You get raised and your parents start scolding you for doing this and that. And they tell you, if you do that one more time, then the ghosts are going to come and eat you. And they really have a lot of superstitions. And of course, there are a lot of snakes that like to come out at night because that's when little animals come out at night so they get something to eat. One day, I was about dusk. I was doing a standing meditation and I felt something coming up my leg. And I'm thinking, oh, if he gets halfway up to my knee and he doesn't seem like he's going to stop, I've got to do something. So I opened my eyes and I looked down, and it was a non poisonous snake, but it was still a snake. And I went, you have to stop. You have to go turn around and go back like that. And he stopped. And he didn't crawl up my leg anymore and went away. But if that would have happened when it was real dark, I didn't have a light. That would have been a very trying time. 9:30. But when you purify yourself by keeping the precepts, you don't have unnatural fears arising. It's a protection for you. There's a lot of advantages of keeping the precepts. Your mind tends to become uplifted. You start to be able to develop your collectedness very easily. You don't have a lot of restlessness and that sort of thing coming up. Another advantage of keeping the precepts is you will die a natural death. You won't die from an accident or being killed. So, the more closely you can keep your precepts, the more this aura of non fear arises, and you know what to do in an emergency type of situation. Nice.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, madam, for reading.
Thanks so much. It was very interesting
Really, yes.
read. Yes.
Really, even the Majjhima Nikāya for the heading of the sutta is Fear and Dread Bhayabherava Sutta. And I think it is talking about how here the one example given here is like when someone meditates in the jungle or forest area. What here it is emphasizing is that if someone has unbodily conduct, in the sense they do not have any purity of conduct, then they may get a thing of fear in his mind, and they may think again that when I purify my mind, I will come back for a in a jungle thicket. It was being mentioned here. And next, Bhante really emphasized about how in Asia people get fear when they like but some people we see in general very like I could able to see one of my family member who do not want to stay in the dark, and he wants light. I think you might also have seen some of the people like that. They fear because of light, non having of light. And I really appreciate Bante's effort in mentioning here that when he was in Thailand monastery, there was a tough time, and there was a only candle and sometimes flashlight where batteries are got exhausted. And here the quiet example Bhante Vimalaramsi was emphasizing was when one time he stuck in the forest area, and he got no light. At that time, the instruction given was to stay at that place itself. And Bhante found it comfortable, and he got good place to sit, and he could able to meditate. Really very interesting here. And one example of snake where he was sitting in meditation, he found one non-poisonous snake coming, and Bante gave instruction to go and turn around, and snake has turned and go around. It's really very good thing. And Bante was emphasizing about purifying the precepts, like definitely if one purifies, like follows the precepts, purifies his precepts, then definitely one cannot have unnatural fear arising because this is the protection of the precepts. and we could able to see the importance of having the precepts like we call Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Like if Sila is stronger, Samadhi, collectedness will develop. And another advantage Bhante emphasizing is that if one keeps the precepts, he will die naturally, and he will not be dying from an accident or being killed. It's a very good thing. Bhante has emphasized it. This time, madam, do you want to add anything? Nanda, madam, do you want to add anything?
It was a very beautiful passage and very well presented. And what I'm saying is that the only thing that is in our hands, what we can do in our hands is following the precepts.
Yeah.
When we can't control the situations around us, if we are well done with our precepts, then everything else is taken care of. So, very beautifully, thank you for taking this up today, and we are reading it. Thank you.
Yeah. And the last thing Bhante was emphasizing was like when we have following the precepts, non-fear arises, like there is no fear arising. And we know what to do in an emergency type of situation. We do what is required for that situation. And I could able to recollect one of the example of Bhante's. Bhante was staying in one place or where he was doing something. Suddenly, fire has come, and all people were shouting, "Fire, fire, fire!" But Bhante could quickly come out of the situation because he know what to do in that situation. Really great thing. Manjushri, madam, do you want to read? Sindhu, do you want to read? Yes, I will be reading. I considered thus, whenever recluses or Brahmin who are covetous and full of lust go into the forest, they have a rough time. But I am uncovetous, with a mind of ill will and intentions of hate. I have mind of loving kindness, overcome by sloth and torpor. I am without sloth and torpor, overcome by restlessness, and unpeaceful in mind. I am peaceful in mind. Bhante Vimalaramsi. See, when he was a bodhisattva, he was always working. He was always developing his mind. I mean, he started out going to meditation teachers and developing this great one pointed concentration. But he knew that that wasn't at the end result, so he started looking for other ways. But he had great concentration, so he didn't have so much problem with the hindrances and that sort of thing because he had practiced the absorption concentration and he tried to keep it going all of the time, so he didn't have hindrances arising so much. Uncertainty and doubting, I have gone beyond uncertainty and doubting, given to self praise and disparage of others. I am not given to self praise and disparage of others. Subject to alarm and terror, I am free from trepidation. Desirous of gain, honor, and renown, I have few wishes. Lazy and wanting in energy, I am energetic. These other monks are unmindful, not fully aware. I am established in mindfulness and fully aware. Other monks are unconcentrated and with straying minds. I am possessed of strong collectedness. I considered thus. Whenever recluses or Brahmin devoid of wisdom, revelers resort to remote jungle thicket, resting place in the forest, then owing to the defect of their being devoid of wisdom and revelers, these good recluses and Brahmins invoke unwholesome fear and dread. But I do not resort to remote jungle thicket resting places in the forest devoid of wisdom. I am not a driveler. I am possessed of wisdom. I resort to remote jungle thicket resting places. in the forest as one of the noble ones possessed of wisdom, Bhante Vimalaramsi. Now, this gives you the impression that he had already started looking at dependent origination and how it worked. We don't have any clear text that tell when he started doing that. He might have started it before he started his ascetic practices. He might not have. We just don't know. But this particular sutta gives the impression that he already understood dependent origination and how it worked. Seeing in myself this possession of wisdom, I found great solace in dwelling in the forest. I considered thus. There are this especially auspicious nights on the 14th, 15th, and 18th of the fortnight. Now, what if on such nights as these I were to dwell in awe-inspiring, terrifying abodes as orchid shrines, woodland shrines, tree shrines? One tendency. I have been to some places in Asia where you just didn't feel comfortable being there. That might be because there were beings that were hanging around there. I don't know. I wasn't sensitive enough to pick that up. I just knew that I wasn't comfortable being there. So that's where I would stay. Perhaps I might encounter the fear and dread, and later on such especially auspicious nights as the 14th, 15th, and 18th of the fortnight, I dwelled in such awe-inspiring, terrifying abodes as orchid shrines, woodland shrines, and tree shrines. And while I dwelled there, a wild animal would come up to me, or a peacock would knock off a branch, and the wind would rustle leaves. And I thought, what now if this is fear and dread coming? I thought, why do I dwell up always expecting fear and dread? What if I subdue that fear and dread while keeping the same posture that I am in when it comes up me? While I walked, the fear and dread come upon me. I neither stood nor sat, nor lied down, nor ran away, till had subdued that fear and dread. While I stood, the fear and dread came upon me. I neither walked, nor sat, nor laid down, till I had subdued that fear and dread. That's a bad word, subdued. Let go of is better. While I sat, the fear and dread came upon me. I neither walked, nor stood, nor laid down, till I had let go of that fear and dread. While I lied down, the fear and dread came upon me. I neither walked, nor stood, nor sat down, till I had let go of that fear and dread. Bhante Vimalaramsi. So, and I think you have all heard me talk about when I was in the forest doing walking meditation about 2 in the morning. I had it was a real nice walking spot, very flat, very fine sand, and I put a candle on one stump and the candle on another stump, and I would just walk back and forth, and out of the corner of my eye saw something, and it happened to me right as I had stopped walking, and I was getting ready to turn around and come back. So I just stood there, and it's amazing how your mind builds these things up. All of a sudden, you got these big hungry ghosts that are going to come eat you alive. And I considered, well, maybe I will be go back into my cabin and they won't bother me, and jump under the covers and try to go to sleep. And then I remembered the sutta. What do? You don't change your posture until you have overcome the fear and dread. And as I was standing there pondering that, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it again. Oh man, it looks like it's getting closer. And that fear and dread was very, very strong at the time that I decided whatever it was gonna be, I didn't care. If it's gonna get me, it's gonna get me. That's okay. So I just kept standing there and turned my head a little bit and looked, and I saw again some lights flicker. And I turned my head all the way and I waited for a minute and I saw the lights flicker again. And it was fireflies. Well, as soon as you see that there is nothing to be afraid of anymore, oh, it's only a fireflies. What am what am I doing with my mind? So then I just resumed walking again, not being distracted by the fireflies. But before I found out what it was, it really had me concerned. Now, there was a monk in Burma, that he always got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and he would do his walking meditation in the forest, walking back and forth. And he had his candle set up like I had my mind set up. And halfway through his walk, he always felt a little uncomfortable. And then he would walk a little bit and come back and feel uncomfortable in that spot and come back. So he moved the candles closer together so he didn't have a long walk. And it turns out that, and this happened for a few days in a row, maybe like a week or something like that. It turns out that there was a lion that was sitting behind in the middle of the walk, and he was just sitting there watching the monk walking back and forth. It he didn't hurt him, but that would make me want to find another walking spot, that's for sure. And then the lion, after he found what it was, he just kept doing his walking meditation. I don't know how he had any collectedness of his mind, but one day he was out of his arms round and he was doing back to his kuti to eat, and this lion came up to him and he had done something, and he caught his tongue on one of his teeth. Oh my goodness, laughs. And the tongue was starting to swell very badly, and he didn't have anything to drink, and he was really hurting. And he came up in front of the monk and laid down in front of him and showed him. So the monk put down his bowl and grabbed on his tongue and pulled up real fast, and he got it unstuck. And then he went into bowl. Someone had given him a container of water. He had put the container of water down, put a little bit of food down for him, and the lion drank the water and ate a couple small pieces of meat and went back to the forest. That would be hard to do. That would be really hard to do. I might be able to do it for one of these guys, but I don't know if I could do it for a lion. But it saved the lion's life. I mean, it was extremely compassionate, and the lion wasn't gonna hurt him, and he suspects that it was the same lion that was sitting watching him do the walking meditation. He didn't know for sure. Really, the Bhante Vimalaramsi was explaining a real examples of where he has experienced and where other monks got experience because of the fear and dread. And I would like to emphasize that when someone is having a devoid of wisdom or having a little wisdom, we can say, or not having a wisdom, it is really very difficult for the person who's having a devoid of wisdom, difficult to practice meditation at jungle thicket or forest area particularly. And Bhante Vimalaramsi emphasized that when he was in one of the forest area, when he was walking, doing a walking meditation, he got fear and dread thought arousal, and he really understood that about this sutta, particularly this MN4, Bhayabherava Sutta. What it says is we need to stand, or we need to be in the same position or same posture which we are when something fear and dread occurs. And he does the same and he was very sensitive enough, and he found that something is happening. Then when he slightly bowed his head little, then he found that it is nothing but a small fireflies. Then Bhante Vimalaramsi was emphasized how mind makes up things. Really very interesting stories were given by Bhante during this walking meditation. Really very the fireflies in story is very quite interesting in the sense how our mind makes up the things. And there was a story of monk and the lion, and finally monk have compassionate towards lion. It's fine. Nanda madam or Chaya madam, do you want to add anything?
It is very interesting to read. I don't know whether I can do all these things.
Truly.
What I'm finding out for myself is by practicing 6 hours, I'm noticing my fear is been greatly reduced, and it's almost has disappeared. I feel very relaxed and very comfortable. So to me, the 6 hours very definitely working, and I think it does this practicing the generosity and keeping the precepts and practicing the 6 hours and cultivating the collectedness and samadhi states most certainly has a very positive effect in the body and mind. And to me, 6R has a profound effect on the body and mind. So I can identify what this sutta is saying. But it is very, very interesting
Yeah.
to hear what the monks are capable of doing. Thank you very much.
Yes. Chaya madam, do you want to say something?
After reading this, I find this very inspiring as well, because this has deepened our faith in the practice, and it's clearly showing that if we have faith in the practice and if we follow it very with in our deepest conduct, then we can handle such situations which have been described in the, it may not be similar, but any kind of difficult situations. So yes, this has really deepened more faith in the practice, and very inspiring to read that the miracles, such miracles can happen uh, just by staying with the Dhamma and with so much of compassion. The We don't have to really fight for anything. So yeah, it's a very very beautiful reading. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes. I think now we will be reading sharing minutes. We can all read together. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, everyone. Wishing all happiness and peace to all.